Ryan Berry, the committee to elect Mark Whittaker, Sheriff of Darke County. We've got Sheriff Whittaker right here with us. This video, we wanted to go a little bit, find out a little bit more about Sheriff Whittaker, who he is, where he comes from, why he wants to serve Darke County, why he has been serving Darke County, and then we also want to maybe touch on the Second Amendment and where you stand on that. So, Sheriff, tell us about yourself. How did you end up here? Why are you here? You're a native here, but
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'll tell you that I was born and raised here in Darke County, graduated from Greenville High School in 1985, and other than about 5 years in the late 80s, early 90s, where I worked in Florida, the state of Florida, as a professional firefighter paramedic, other than those 5 years, I've spent pretty much my entire life right here in Darke County. For the last 21, 22 years, I've lived right here in my home in Van Buren Township, along with my wife. Me and my wife have been together for a couple of decades, I'll say. And we've raised two boys. Both of them are adults now and live here in the community. And I'm proud of those two boys and what they've done. And I'll tell you what, I can't think of a better county to work and serve. And when I was 18 years old, I knew growing up, I knew growing up ever since I was a kid that one way or another, I was either going to be a firefighter, a paramedic, or a law enforcement officer. I wasn't sure which, but I just knew that I was going to be one of those things. And I was somebody who never grew out of that, I guess. And the day that I turned 18 and graduated from Greenville High School, I went to then Chief or Administrator Mick Mayer of Greenville Township Rescue.
Yeah.
And I asked if he would take me on as an EMT and that type of thing. And he did. He took me on. He paid for my training. And that started me on a career in 1985 of public safety that I still obviously am in today. So 36 plus years. I served at Greenville Township Rescue. Eventually became a paramedic. And over time I became a full-time firefighter. And in 1995, I returned back around 93 or 94. I returned home. I was emergency management director in Preble County down in Eaton for a little while, handling disaster services, and that was before Homeland Security. It was called Emergency Management Agency, and making sure that Preble County was prepared and had a plan and things like that for disaster services. And I also coordinated public safety services and making sure that they had resources if they needed them. I think it was 95, I went to Sinclair Basic Peace Officer Academy, where I became certified peace officer, and in August of 1995, Sheriff Toby Spencer hired me as a deputy sheriff. And by 1998, he promoted me or made me detective. And in about 2000, I believe it was, I was made detective sergeant. And I was investigations for probably the better part of my career at the sheriff's office. And eventually I became chief deputy. When Chief Bill Grice retired, the sheriff approached me and asked me if I'd want to be his chief deputy. That was in 2009. And I was his chief deputy for 12 years before his retirement.
What were some of the biggest, I know we didn't talk about this before, but just out of curiosity, what were some of the biggest lessons that you learned from Sheriff Spencer?
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I could not ask for a better boss. And we had conversations over the years about where the direction of my career was. And he asked me a long time ago if I had ever any interest in being the sheriff. And I would tell you that when I started at the sheriff's office, being the sheriff or running for the sheriff that wasn't on my radar. I just wanted to be the detective and solve crime. But as I progressed and was promoted and moved up and learned more about the office and the importance of the office of sheriff, and what I realized when the sheriff approached me about that, and I thought about it, I thought, I think I would like to be the sheriff someday if he would ever retire. And he started me on a path when he appointed me as chief for that to be a viable goal. And What did I learn from him? When he made me chief, he gave me a lot of opportunities. He trusted me. I always used to say when I was the chief deputy that I administered the sheriff's office at the direction of the sheriff on his behalf. And he trusted me. He gave me the opportunity to manage the budget of the office. So I learned how to do the budget. He trained me how to do that, how to be fiscally responsible as an administrator of the sheriff's office. Make sure that the deputies had the tools, the training, the things they needed to do an effective job and serve the citizens while at the same time being fiscally responsible. He also trained me how to address or deal with the public, the importance of community engagement, and he allowed me during the times I was chief the opportunity to become a part of the Chamber of Commerce as a board member, eventually the Coalition for Healthy Darke County. I was on a number of committees. I served on the safety committee for the Darke County Fair Safety Committee as we prepare for the fair each year and make a safe fair. He put a lot of trust in me and allowed me to do a lot of things and introduce ideas. So I would introduce ideas to him and we would have discussions, and he would provide me his wisdom on, Mark, I don't think I'd do that. Why don't we do it this way? Or, hey, I think that is a good idea. Let's see what we can do. And that's kind of what I learned from Sheriff Spencer over the years. But more importantly was he always thought of the citizens and how the office served the citizens first. That was always first and foremost. The other big deal that the sheriff instilled in me, and I have, and we always instill in all the deputies, is the integrity. The integrity of the deputy and the office is so important so that we have the trust of the citizens that they give us, because this is a very unique position to be in, and it takes significant trust of the citizens to allow people to do what we do each day. Now, there's an old saying, kind of goes back, it's kind of police 101, which is the police or the sheriff's office doesn't exist unless the citizens say it exists. And it's important that we all remember that. So at the sheriff's office, we want to serve professionally with integrity. We want to do it with fairness. We want to do it with teamwork. Teamwork means that the sheriff's office and the deputies alone can't do it by themselves. We need to do teamwork with the citizens that we serve, reporting to us, talking to us, letting us know when things are going on. We ask ourselves at the Darke County Sheriff's Office, and this is something I learned from Sheriff Spencer, we ask ourselves every day, we reflect on what we did the day before or the weekend before and say, did we do it right? If so, can we do it better? And if we did it right, we need to keep doing it that way. And we are constantly reassessing ourselves. And the best way for us to do it is for the citizens to give us feedback.
And that's an area I know people have asked, because we've talked about this, whether you're going to be visible and be out there, and it sounds like you already are. Are you going to be out there? That if a group wants you to come and talk to them, I know you've done it in the past. Are you going to continue doing that as you continue on as sheriff?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's important for a county's sheriff to be visible and available and accessible to the community. And that question has come up. Township trustees have asked me, fair board members have asked me, other citizens have asked me, are you going to be out in these committees? Are you going to still do these things, or are you going to appoint someone else to do it? And the answer to that is quite simply, I'm going to still keep doing these things. I really enjoy serving the community. And even though I've been doing it for all these years, I still feel strongly, I have a lot of passion about serving the community, and I want to do it well. And I want to do it in a way that I think I always want to make the right decisions and do the right things to serve the citizens. I always ask myself, is this the right thing to do? And I want to continue to do that. And the best thing for a sheriff to do is to get out and interact with the public. I've been doing that since I was appointed sheriff. I was doing that as the chief. And I've been telling folks, if you have a question about me or about the Darke County Sheriff's Office, call me, ask me. I'll answer whatever questions you have. I might give you answers you don't want to hear, but I'm a straight shooter. And I also want to know, are we providing professional service with integrity? Are we doing this with fairness? Are we working well together? And if we can do better, let me know. I'm interested in knowing how we can improve.
And I can attest to that. In my previous employment as an editor for the paper, anytime I had a question, you had an answer, or you would find an answer for me, and it was always appreciated in that aspect for me. Moving on, let's talk about the Second Amendment. Everybody knows that the Sheriff's Department does the concealed carry, oversees that, but where do you stand on the Second Amendment? How will you protect the Second Amendment rights for Darke Countyans?
Well, I took an oath 26 years ago when Sheriff Spencer hired me, and I raised my right hand and I swore to support the Constitution of the United States of America and the state of Ohio. And I took that oath again when I was sworn in as the sheriff of Darke County. And I take that oath very seriously. And I understand the importance the Second Amendment rights of the citizens of Darke County are. And where I stand on that is quite simply, I believe that your Second Amendment rights should be protected and that you should have the opportunity to possess, carry firearms lawfully. And I am going to do what I can do. And how does a sheriff, how can I do that? I don't pass laws, obviously. I'm not a state representative. But how does a sheriff, how can they help the citizens of Darke County? Well, I found out by observing Sheriff Spencer, and I've since found out since becoming sheriff as well, how much influence a sheriff of a county has on their elected officials, both local, but more importantly, state representatives and your congressmen and your senators. They do call their sheriffs. They will ask, hey, we're working on this legislation. What do you think? I've also learned how important and how influential the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association is, which is an association of all 88 county sheriffs, of which I'm now a member, of course. And I have found out how important that the influence is, and I am willing to and want to use my influence as your sheriff to represent the constituents that I serve, and that I understand the importance of their constitutional rights and how they feel about it, and more importantly, their Second Amendment rights. By providing input to those representatives when they're considering legislation, and I think that they should consider legislation, not unlike what's on the governor's desk currently right now as we speak, which is a constitutional carry. I support that. The Buckeye State Sheriff's Association supports that. We believe that lawful folks are not the ones we should fear, it's the criminals, and the criminals don't care whether they have a CCW or not, they're going to carry anyways. So why are we putting impediments in the way of our citizens? We should be allowing them the opportunity to constitutionally carry as long as they're lawful. So 21 and older, and you're lawful, and if you're able to get it, I believe that's something you should be allowed to do. And I have tried to contact the representatives. I shouldn't say try, I have contacted. I have met with Congressman Davidson, and I've told them how important the constitutional rights and the Second Amendment rights of our citizens are, and that I support any legislation that permits that.
I know elected officials, you have contact with them. They talk with you, you talk with them. That's very important to have that communication channel.
Yes.
Whether it be the commissioners or whether it be our state or congressional candidates. Yes. And you have that built in already, correct?
Yes. The Sheriff Spencer allowed me as the chief deputy to become a part of these organizations and these groups. He's also permitted me the opportunity to interact with our congressmen, our legislative aides of our state representatives, as well as our state representatives. When I go to meetings or I go to groups where representatives are present, I have an opportunity to speak to them, talk to them. I've reached a point now, having been at the sheriff's office for several years, I know them and they know me. We can walk up to each other and we can have conversations. I believe that I have the trust of our local elected officials, because it's very important for a sheriff to work with our local elected officials. The county commissioners, I run the sheriff's office, I set the policies, I can do all of those things, but at the end of the day, the county commissioners statutorily provide the funding for the sheriff's office.
Right.
So it's important that the sheriff and the commissioners work closely together, and that there's some sort of trust and professional relationship so that they can provide me with the proper funding so that I can administer the office and do the job. And I believe that exists. I believe that I've had that trust, and that doesn't always happen overnight. As new commissioners have come and new ones have come in and others have left, I've maintained that relationship, and that is part of doing the budget process that the Sheriff Tony Spencer had previously allowed me to do. That's where those relations. I go in with the budget, I explain to them why did it go up, why did this budget go down, and that's how we learn those things. And that's how those types of professional relationships happen. And that happens across the board. It's important to have a professional relationship with the auditor. She decides whether the money gets
that's going to say that's a big one right there.
It's important. And I feel like I have a very good relationship with our treasurer, Scott Zumbrink.
Right.
And these are things that are important for a sheriff. And I have those. Those exist, and they go back several years. As well as a relationship with the courts. Now, what I will say about the courts is this, is I will not always and don't always agree, obviously, with the decisions that they make. And I am trying to come to grips with the changes in the criminal justice philosophies that are occurring in the county. But what I will tell you is that I have, in my opinion, a professional relationship with the judges of this county, where we can agree to disagree, and they give me the opportunity to express my opinion or my thoughts while I listen to what they say. And at the end of the day, I can't control what a judge decides or does. That's their prerogative.
Right.
That's his or her prerogative to make a decision and administer the law from their perspective. But I feel like that you need to have a productive professional relationship with them, no matter the circumstances. That's not a relationship that you want to close down or have a problem with.
Yeah, a contentious relationship with any of the ones that we've mentioned is not good in any area.
No, it's not. And like I said, at the end of the day, I will tell you that I haven't always agreed with those situations. I would like to see some things change as we move forward in the future, but my role as the sheriff is to enforce the law and also maintain a safe and secure jail. It is the judge's job to decide whether someone is guilty, innocent, or whether they stay in jail or they're let out on bond. I have no control over that. I try to influence them when I can. I try to let them know what my thoughts are in terms of whether this is a safe idea, but it is their prerogative at the end of the day.
Right. Well, we branched off on a lot of issues on this one, and I think they were good issues to get off on, to just really discover who you are, what your thoughts were on a lot of things. We still have one more video to do, and that one's coming up, and that's going to be another good one. But again, if you're voting on the Republican primary, Sheriff Mark Whittaker, this would be a great time, a great choice to keep him in where he is. As you've listened, you've heard him talk about the connections that he has, what he stands for as far as constitutionality of the Second Amendment, and he's from here. He's lived here almost all of his life, except for a few years when he was in Florida and then got smart and came back. And where he's been. So whether you're voting absentee or whether you're voting at the polling place, vote for Mark Whittaker, Sheriff Mark Whittaker. You can't go wrong.